You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Center, this is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share facts.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is We'll do it live! Time goes in, time goes out. Never miscommunication.
It's over 9,000! My name is Foxy.
The balls are in there. Do a barrel roll. Don't save me, bro. It's a trap. I'm a firing believer. Time to Hey, Charlie, wake up! Oh, God, oh, man.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Nerd to Know Basis Show, airing on Phoenix 92.5 FM and, of course, on the internet, which is everywhere, as we all know, for episode 140, that big milestone we've been hyping for the last few weeks since the last milestone. My name is Cian, and with us, as always, is...
Ahoy, it's Dara.
Dara, a pirate, apparently. Hello, ahoy, ahoy, ahoy. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I haven't been in the show in a while, actually.
Oh, yes, that's true. Have you been off on the high seas, or what's been happening?
No. Actually, I watched a very good documentary yesterday on uTorrent, speaking of the high seas, and they were talking about like the reason why it had a downfall, and I wasn't aware of this. Apparently, like it was riddled with malware and all that kind of stuff, and dodgy advertising, and they're like, yeah, that's why people stopped using it, because like it was just an interesting topic on the technology of torrenting, So I will put the link of it in the description below because I cannot remember it. It was some random channel that popped on my YouTube at like 2 a.m. But yeah, speaking of the high seas, it was an interesting documentary. But no, I've just been busy. It's just been a crazy couple of weeks. Comic-Con was I was recovering from Comic-Con and recovering from the Rona and a few other things. So all good now, though. All good now.
Yes, of course. Well, it was lovely seeing you at Comic-Con, but I believe before we started recording, you teased some very, very exciting topics for this week that you insisted on not telling me about. So let's have one of them.
So one is, well, it's more of a statement. So I've been going through Geek Ireland, and by the way, guys, if you haven't been in Geek Ireland, come on, it's a great.
Yeah,
website.
they're class. Like
they are, and Keane writes pretty much all their stuff. No, I think it's like you and Olivia who do like everything. So fair play.
No, Olivia does 95% of it. The editor at Geek Ireland. I just pitch in with like
and friend of the show.
Star Trek's good now and again.
And friend of the show, Olivia's the best. But no, I've been going through it and I have a bunch of topics from there. But I saw one that like, I'm like, come on, seriously. An 11-year-old sets a record for the most Harry Potter quotes characters guessed from quotes, and I'm like,
what's your problem with this?
Everything. Well, I mean, not the child itself, like, but I mean, like, I would be like, here's Lord of the Rings. You should read Lord of the Rings. It's a lot better. You'll enjoy it.
I wish this wasn't audio, so I could cut some footage of you as an 11-year-old with like a lightsaber or something.
I mean, that's me now, dude. Like that's.
Actually, could just complete sidestep. Did you ever have this phenomenon of doing lightsaber fights in the road and then having to like ungallantly stop them because cars were coming? Is that something you lived through?
No, because I live beside fields, so we never actually had to be on the roads. The only way on the roads if we were playing like hockey when that was a big thing, like on like rollerblade hockey or playing like football or kick the can or something like that. But no, we didn't have to do that. You just played with sticks in the grass that was beside the house, like, so it was grand. But I mean, like, I would, I could understand. I guess my problem isn't that he guessed all the quotes. I mean, like, rad, that's awesome. And not taking the achievement away. I mean, like, it's just Harry Potter is such a bad thing to be a fan of. I mean,
Well, I mean, look, you're no stranger to, like, people you are not wild about on the inside of your favorite franchise, and like we shouldn't diminish the people who enjoy Harry Potter because of the acts of bad actors involved with it.
No, I'm just saying it's a bad series.
Oh, I see. Just critically, you mean?
Well, the extra stuff that happened around it, the obvious statements of the creator. Let's put it that way, which are public. I mean, I just hate Harry Potter. Like, genuinely, it just visually makes me sick. Like,
you don't want to be a wizard?
Yeah, Gandalf. I mean, Tolkien is there, or C.S. Lewis, or anything else that isn't Harry Potter. I mean, I just can't stand it. And it's really weird because like people love it, and I remember growing up, and okay, so I've told the story. I don't know if I've told the story before, but I
almost certainly have.
Have I told the story before? Okay, so
go on anyway.
So I remember. So, Keen, you and I are similar in age, and Harry Potter was a big thing when we were growing up. Obviously, because we kind of grew up when the books were kind of like still going, but also the movies were out. So I think we were like 11 when the first movie came out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I was 14. I was in second year, so I was 14 when Chamber of Secrets came out. Because I remember seeing it because I had to see it 4 times in the space of a day, and nightmare.
Why?
It's just happened. When you go to birthday parties and you just end up seeing it. It's like the way I saw the original Casper literally 6 times in a day.
Okay.
So I mean, it's just what happened, and I remember specifically, and when I was in primary school, the first book was out and the second book was out, and I remember they had the little book with the cart on it, and you would read it, and I read the first one, and I was like, okay, whatever. Then I read the second one, and I hated it so much I threw it behind the radiator in the school, and I picked up Lord of the Rings.
To be fair, even J.K. Rowling isn't mad at the second one.
They're all terrible. They're all terrible, in my opinion. And I'm like, I made a better decision by reading Lord of the Rings. Because Lord of the Rings was huge. And again, there's a much better book, in my opinion, of course. And I'm like, if you like Harry Potter, cool, but you shouldn't.
I don't know. I'll go to bat for Harry Potter. I think it's great that it's like, obviously creator outside of it.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. I mean,
great that like a kid can plug themselves into it and like really live out the world. Like I know, like I was talking with kids because I teach kids, and like a typical thing is like, hi, my name's so and so. What Hogwarts house would you be in? As a world, it's super sturdy, and it's one that kids can like plug themselves into very, very easily. And I'm going to go to bat for books 3 and 4 as well. I think they're great books as well.
See, I hate that so much when someone's like, what house are you in? I'm like, I'm not. It's not real. I just can't stand it. It's just, and I mean, like, it was funny because you guys did a panel a couple of years ago in the before times when you talked about Harry Potter, and I was devastated.
We were going to. It didn't happen.
Oh, it didn't happen?
Be the 2020 Comic-Con event.
Oh man, we need to do that for like next Comic-Con because like I mean, I understand people love it, and probably some people are going, but I mean, I saw that.
We've got a friend of the channel certainly is a big fan of it.
And I mean,
listening though.
And I mean, when I saw that, I was like, one, I was like, oh, that's really cool for the kid, but I'm also like, oh, I wish it was for something better. It was just like, and that's wrong because it's a wrong thing to have. That's how much I hate Harry. Like, so on the hate poll, there's J.J. Abrams and Harry Potter, and they're like. And the new Star Wars, I actually really, really like The Last Jedi, to be fair, and the new Star Wars sequels, and they're all kind of equally just kind of like on that poll, and I'm like, man.
Well, speaking of
hold on, I'm not done. I'm not done. So that was the first one. So I know. So in all seriousness, fair play to that kid, but I just thought it was really funny, and I'm like, yeah, that hatred of Harry Potter still hasn't tempered off.
Well, I can counter that with Lord of the Rings because like I was asked to read The Hobbit before we went to see Fellowship of the Ring in cinema, and because I'm a slow reader, I didn't finish it in time for it. But I didn't mind because The Hobbit was such a good book.
It is a good book. It's
but then my barely literate brain had to read The Lord of the Rings, and it's dense. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a great book. It's 11,000 million words. And I'm still pissed off at the end of the Two Towers book where
Oh,
they leave
stop.
you on a
That's the best.
cliffhanger and
Of course
then
they
make you
do.
wade through Éomer and Faramir's romance for 8 or 9 chapters until you find out certain character is okay.
I mean, you can skip through the book.
You can, but
I
like,
mean, you can do that. Like, that's how I got through the Wheel of Time. I'm like,
I see.
this is nonsense. This is, you know, but no,
I don't know. It's
I will
just
take
I
that
find
point.
Lord of the Rings more fascinating than readable. Like it feels like a history book. It's just I find Lord of the Rings interesting because like the first half of Fellowship is all very hobbity and sort of like nice and chill. And then books 2 and 3, it's structured less around narrative action and more around big events. So you'll get all of Helm's Deep one chapter, all of the Battle of Gondor one chapter, but also Éomer and Faramir's romance, which I'm not against by any means. That's one chapter. It just feels more like a history book than it does a narrative in the traditional sense. I'm not knocking the series itself. I'm just saying I found it an incredibly punishing read. And I can certainly see why people enjoy Harry Potter and still love it, even though I'm not wild about the Fantastic Beasts films personally. And I'm glad that like kids like out there like still find something in it, like, you know, because it is relatively wholesome, especially considering loads of kids are kind of into things like Five Nights at Freddy's and very edgy properties, like, you know. So I'll go to bat for Harry Potter, not for its creator, but like for it as a franchise, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so you know, look, I take your point. I take your point on that, where it feels like a history book for a place that doesn't exist. That's because it is. Like Tolkien wrote it as a mythology for Anglo-Saxon Celtic people.
Right.
You know, he wrote it specifically as a new mythology, you know, and that's what it is. And that's why it's kind of written the way it is. That's why it's populated as it is, because it's like, it's specifically to tie together the myths of, you know, that's why like his translation of like old English myths are so good, and his knowledge of Nordic stuff is so good. Like that's his background. You know, he was a professor of.
Not knocking
you know?
Tolkien. He was an amazing man.
No, but I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. But I mean, like as a kid, I always loved reading history books. Like,
I see. Yes, of course, you studied history, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, like,
well, classical stuff, especially. Like,
well, I mean, like when I was younger, my dad would like get me books on Stalingrad. He's like, here, read this as an 8-year-old reading about Stalingrad, you know. So I really liked history always growing up, you know. And yeah, I did a pretty much half a PhD in classics. Eventually, what a horrible waste of time that was. But
you're using it now.
Well, I mean, but when you're sitting there and you're like, you know, a kid and you love history, it's such an easy way to get into it. So I do take that point, but I mean, I always just found it so engrossing. And then you can, when you get older, you can read more to it. Like I love Tolkien so much, I can read The Hobbit in Latin.
Oh wow!
And it's great. I know Harry Potter's in Latin too, but I'm like, this is not a good book. I mean, it is for kids, obviously. I'm not taking that away from anyone, but I mean, I can go back to Lord of the Rings and love it as a thing. I can go back to The Hobbit and love it. And then, you know, if I have kids one day, I can be like, here's The Hobbit in Latin, and then they hate me forever. But I mean, you know, with Harry Potter, I'm like, okay. I mean, like,
I'll give you that. I think Harry Potter for adults, for most adults, I would maybe say, is kind of like Pokemon in that it's still well loved, but also of its time. I will not go back and watch Pokemon Series 1. I will not.
I've tried
to read Harry Potter. It's not because I don't like them anymore. It's just they're of their time. You know, same with like Dragon Ball Z and like a lot of things like that. You know.
Yeah, I've tried. You know, and even like the nostalgia of Pokemon as well. It wears away more and more because I'm like, it's kind of stupid. You know, I mean, like I love Pokemon, but I'm like, it's also kind of stupid at a certain point. You're like, after Silver, it's like, what are we doing? You know, it's like it's the same thing. They keep making the same thing.
If it's a good thing.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, I totally get your point, you know, and like I can go back to, you know, I find them harder to get into. Again, as a kid though, I loved Red, Blue, Silver, and I played them for hours, 200 hours, but I'm like, okay, whatever. I think it's like the same kind of, you do see a lot of crossover, like people who are really into Pokemon really like, you know, really like it.
Yeah.
And
Well, Pokemon is another franchise. It's not like a Lord of the Rings, which is very lore heavy. Like Pokemon's another one where, as a 10-year-old, you can plug yourself into it and make your own character who goes on their own journey. It's a different type of escapism to the Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. And it's why I like Star Wars, for example. Star Wars, to go back to your lightsaber point, like Star Wars is, you can plug yourself into the world, but that's not what it's about. I mean, you can, but that's not what it's about. It's a mythology, you know, and it's the same kind of thing with very, very lore heavy, same with Warhammer 40k. And it's these kind of things, you know, and I think that stuff appeals to certain type of people. And I do totally get it. And you do see a lot of crossover. People who love Harry Potter really like Pokemon. It's very similar. Like, and it's because, you know, you can buy all the Harry Potter stuff and you can, I'm part of this house and I have this wand. And and for me, I'm like, when I'm watching Star Wars, I'm like, I really want Mara Jade to show up. Come on, Revan. You know, where's Kyle Katarn?
You've illustrated the point we're making, which is that you are nostalgic for very specific aspects of Star Wars. You're not enjoying Star Wars because you made a Jedi with your name on it and plugged yourself into that story. Like, you know what I mean? It's two different types of enjoying escapism. Like, and
I think that's a very good point. Maybe one that is lost on me that I probably never considered before. I mean, like, at no point, even when I'm playing Knights of the Republic, for example, I'm not in Star Wars. I'm playing Revan, or I'm playing as the exile. I'm like, I don't want to be in Star Wars. I just really like Star Wars.
Yes,
you know.
Yes.
But I mean, like, there are people who like want to be Pokemon trainers or like buy into that, and they buy into the whole house thing. I'm like, it's just very bizarre for me because, like, when I know, even with Tolkien as well, it's like I didn't want to be in Lord of the Rings, and you know.
See, the thing is, I don't think it'd be fun to live in Lord of the Rings unless you were an elf. Like, Lord of the Rings is proper middle-aged fantasy story. Like, I mean you would be sleeping in a ditch unless you were a king.
I mean, that's pretty cool though in and of itself. Like, when I was in Game of Thrones, like, one of the appeal of Game of Thrones initially for us was because we're like, oh, it's like Lord of the Rings, but more brutal, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's pretty cool. Like, you don't want to live there, but I mean, the Middle Ages weren't fun. Like, you know, like, people forget that it was not fun. I mean, I wasn't there, but you can read a book from the Middle Ages that no one says it's fun. You know, or play actually Deliverance Kingdom Come. I don't know if you play that, where it's like
no, I don't do. I do a lot of fantasy gaming, unfortunately.
Oh man, well, it's basically a Polish medieval life simulator, right? Where you play as a dirt poor peasant who becomes a priest, and that's it. It's not fun. And like,
wait a minute, this sounds familiar. I think we had a friend of mine on the Game Corner who basically talked about a monk simulator. And this sounds like it. Yes,
this is it. Yeah, it was on Game Corner because I edited the show.
Yes.
No, and it is that kind of thing, you know. And for me, like, games like that don't really, like, I'm not really into the RPG thing that much because, like, I don't want to take on the characters. I kind of like playing characters that are already there. So I mean, look, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, you just don't understand, you're right, I don't, because I like different things that have established lore and getting deep into that. And I remember that because, you know, it's like a history kind of thing. And I'm just like, when I see someone going, oh, what house are you? I'm like, I live in my house. I'm like, that's it. I don't understand these Patronus things. Patronus doesn't mean what you think it means. And I'm just like, I just can't stand it. So there's my rant of Harry Potter, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize, but
it's quite all right.
I think I put my point out consistently and respectively. So hopefully you guys aren't too mad. But if you are, email Bryn, cast on Twitter.
It's all engagement.
But seriously, right? Some good news, and I can't believe you haven't talked about this because I was listening to the show. I really like listening to the show when I'm not on it because it's like I'm having a conversation with you guys when I'm not. And I'm like, oh, they're having a good chat. I can't believe you haven't talked about this. We're getting a Lego store, man.
Oh yeah,
we're getting a Lego store.
How did I miss talk? To be honest, I assumed I was the only person who cared about it. I think that's why I didn't talk about it.
No, man, everyone loves Lego. Come on, I have 4 boxes of Lego underneath me right now that I haven't got around to doing. Because I'm like, if someone wants to buy me stuff, buy me Lego. Like, I mean, when I ask for presents, like, what do you want? Lego.
Yeah. Oh, I've got an anecdote about Lego, actually. Because I'm big into my Marvel Lego, because I love getting figurines. And I know Prim plays with them and destroys them, but such as parenthood.
Go on, tell me.
And we are currently moving house, and Stevie very generously offered to move down some boxes of Lego in like an art and hobby bag. And a woman in the shopping center said, oh, that's nice. Is that for your son? Yes.
Yes.
The 31-year-old who lives in the house with me, who's getting married to me, is the one who needs this. And I'm really glad I wasn't there for it, but I find it incredibly funny because there are a lot of like adult Lego builders out there now. People really, and not even like a nostalgic way, like people really still love it. Like, what kind of stuff do you get? Like,
So I have the Infinity Gauntlet at the moment. I have the Avengers Tower, and I have another one. What's this one? Oh yeah, I have the ship in a bottle. They're the three ones that I have lately that I haven't got around to doing. I keep meaning to, but just don't have the time. But I really like the architecture ones. Like I have San Francisco behind me. Like you guys have seen it when we're on the stream. You see what's behind me. Like, I just think they're really relaxing, and it's like it's a cool thing to just kind of do. You know, like I was really big into Warhammer growing up, but like Warhammer's expensive, like legit. So I mean, like Lego isn't expensive, and I love doing Gundams.
No, let's not go crazy. Lego is expensive.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like Gundams, I like doing as well, but it's kind of messy. The thing about Lego is, and it's why it trumps the two of them. It's because you can build a bit of it, right? Because the way they do it now is it comes in bags.
Yes.
So you can do one bag and then put it away, and then do another bag, and you can kind of work your way through it rather than sitting there. Like, if you're going to build a Gundam, clear 4 hours. You know, if you're going to paint Warhammer, like you need a table or you need a space where you just kind of do it, because it can get kind of messy. Like I remember I super glued my finger together as an 8-year-old, 11-year-old when I was playing Warhammer. I still have the scar on my finger from it.
Oh my god, you've got a Warhammer scar. That's
I do.
Like immediate nerd cred right there.
It was like I remember it was Marius Calgar, who's the leader of the Ultramarines,
right?
And I was gluing him or whatever, and I had my finger holding, I think it was his arm or something. And then I was like, oh no. Oh no. And then I got a knife and just kind of like started like peeling it off. I know there was no blood, obviously, because it was like just glue.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got it off in the end anyway, but yeah, a bit of my finger is missing. Not my finger as such, but the skin on it, you can see where it is.
Oh god.
Yeah, there was no blood, which was hilarious. But yeah.
I used to get the Lord of the Rings style thing from the Warhammer company. And I remember, now to be fair, it was probably like being nice, but the guy who sold it to me, like I was buying like a big one, like a Balrog or something. Yeah. And he goes, how long have you been doing this? And I was like, I don't know, a few months. I was buying it with my confirmation money or something. Yeah. And he goes, I don't think you can make this. And I appreciate it in retrospect. But actually, I did manage to do it, and it was something I was immensely proud of. And it was only ruined by the fact I could not find anyone else to play with. And they ended up trading it away for sort of like, I don't know, Tyranids or something like that.
I got back into, because initially I played Ultramarines. And then when dude, I don't know if you remember Lord of the Rings coming out. Like, if you can remember, it was huge. That and The Matrix came out at the same time. And it was
You're right, actually. And your favorite thing, Harry Potter, that was out around the same time.
I know.
And actually the Phantom Menace, which actually I'm going to counter your point about Star Wars.
No.
That was 99.
It was, but like the hype, like the prequels are filled with disappointment.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings was the biggest thing in the world. And so was The Matrix until people were like, and like, dude, I stopped playing Warhammer because I'm like, I haven't got money for this. This is expensive. And then the Lord of the Rings set came out, and I remember you could get them in the newsagents, and I started playing them, and I ended up having a massive army. My favorite one is actually the Moomakill. I have a proper Moomakill.
Oh, I never had one of those.
Oh man, I remember like I worked with my dad, and I was like, oh, I have enough money to buy a Moomakill. Went in and spent 80 pounds, or 80 euros, 80 pounds. I don't remember. I think it would have been euros. Yeah, it would have been euros. Yeah, 80 euros on it. I'm like, in hindsight, I'm like, oh man, that's such a waste of money. But it's still cool. I still have it to this day. I'm like, it looks awesome, you know. But that thing took ages to put together. And like, yeah, the Balrog was hard to do. I didn't have one, but I remember it was just all metal as well. So
it wasn't even that it was all metal. It's like a lot of those figurines you make, they stand at really dynamic angles, which makes it very easy to glue yourself to it and then be stuck there.
Well,
and this is a bit of your finger.
This is what happened with Marius Calgar. This was one of the older models. Like, I think now they've kind of replaced them more with kind of like plastic ones. But yeah, man, like I love Warhammer. I really do. I think it's a phenomenal hobby. It's just so expensive and so time consuming that you just haven't got it. But I mean, like, it's such a cool thing, you know. I'd love to be able to do it more, but I'm just like, I just can't.
To be honest, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there with the news agents there, because I used to love getting the fortnightly, like, Lord of the Rings magazine. You'll get one figure, you'll get 5 orcs, whatever. Because I like making them, and I don't mind if I don't get to play the game. It's fun to assemble them. The only nasty thing about the Balrog was it was plastic and metal put together. Like, which even as a 12-year-old, I could tell you that doesn't seem like a good idea design-wise. You know what I mean? They aren't meant to combine. But then again, that's the nice thing about Warhammer, because when the Balrog inevitably fell apart, I just stuck the wings on a big Tyranid something else, Like, you can just mix and match things and make whatever you want, And if people kind of object to it, then don't play with them.
Like, I got into conversions as well. Because I was saying I didn't really like playing it. Like, sometimes I did, but, it depends. I as I said, I'm more just kind of like painting them and making them. And I got into conversions, and I have some cool conversions. Actually, I'll post them up on my Instagram, so people can see them. But yeah, man, like, it's one thing where you're sitting there going, "Where did I have all this time?" Where did I have all this time? But yeah, so that's why I just kind of went back to Lego. And I think a lot of people are the same. It's just like I have a couple of hours, maybe in between work or whatever. And you're like, okay, I can do this set, and Lego is super fun, to do. So I'm really excited that we have a Lego store. Like, I'm going to London this weekend. I'm going to go to the Lego store. I'm going to Rhodes in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go to the Lego store.
I've been to the one in Amsterdam. It's great fun. You can get a minifigure made of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, which we got the whole family done. Like, you can get all these like designer Lego sets that are Lego shop exclusive. Like, you can get those ones where like people make the sets themselves and submit it for consideration, like the Home Alone, the Friends Cafe, the Seinfeld. They're all fan made. Same with Stranger Things. Like, it's fun just to be in the Lego shop, even if you don't end up buying anything. Do we have a date on when the Lego shop is opening in Dublin?
We don't. We don't even have so coming from Geek Ireland, it's quite near the Disney store apparently, and they're going to be taking over the unit that was formerly Top Man. So 41.
Oh, Disney shop is going, is it?
No, the Disney shop is there. The Top Man shop is gone.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
So it's not beside, but very, very near. You know where the Top Man used to be? I think it's like across the street.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And apparently there's going to be 50 new jobs created. Now, here's the thing. I'm totally going to apply for that because who doesn't want to work for Lego? So, I mean, if they're listening, come on.
Maybe hide the Harry Potter sets, but otherwise.
Oh, just don't let me speak to people about Harry Potter. That's the truth of it. No, don't buy that. Buy this. It's like, actually, have you seen the episode of The Simpsons?
They did do Lord of the Rings Lego, as I recall. I remember having a Lego Gandalf.
Have you seen the episode of The Simpsons where Stan Lee goes to comic book guy's shop? Of
course, yeah.
And he's like, "You don't need to read this. You need to read the Hulk." That'd be me.
Oh, yeah. He like smashes the Hulk into the poor Adam West Batmobile.
I love it. Yeah. So there's also some cool news that kind of came out that dropped this week.
Well, actually, before we go into big news, since you've brought up history books and history, can I do my now recurring segment, random online streaming Netflix recommendation that isn't really new, but I want to recommend it anyway?
Of course.
Imagine those words like in the Star Wars font in your head. Last time it was The Lighthouse. This time have you ever heard of something called Five Came Back?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, I highly recommend it to you and anyone who is listening to this. It's only 3 parts long. It's on Netflix now. And it's basically the true story. It's documentary about 5 filmmakers, 5 proper Hollywood-like directors who all were sent off to World War II to film like stuff from the war for propaganda reels and all that kind of stuff. Right. And it basically charts the run up to the war itself, and everything after that. And what makes it really dynamic is they get like 5 proper big name Hollywood people to cover each of the directors. So it's the 5 it focuses on in the World War II were John Ford, William Wyler, John Huston, Frank Capra, and George Stevens. So like, between them, The Grapes of Wrath, Ben-Hur, It's a Wonderful Life, all these kind of big things. But then they get from Hollywood now, they get Paul Greengrass, like, Born Identity, Steven Spielberg, speaks for itself, Francis Ford Coppola, Godfather, Guillermo del Toro of everything wonderful he does, and Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote, the good Star Wars films.
Well,
You know,
no, he wrote Empire and then
he wrote Jedi.
Did he write Jedi? Okay,
Yeah.
he wrote
Jedi slightly under protest because there were things he wanted that George Lucas made him put in and take out and that kind of stuff.
Fair.
But yes, he did write it.
Yeah, but he also wrote the mistakes.
He wrote what was good in Episode 7. But anyway, we're not going to go.
There was nothing good in Episode 7.
There's enough episodes of Star Wars.
There was nothing good in Episode 7.
Meryl Streep narrates this documentary. I'm just going on. You can edit me out if you want.
I love the way you sell.
Anyway, I highly recommend this because even as someone who isn't particularly interested in World War II, you basically get this sense of not just the directors, but like how like no one really saw this coming.
Yeah.
Like, they were doing the same thing. We don't want to get too political on the show, but They were basically, Hollywood was avoiding making movies about the war because America wasn't in the war for the first half of it. And we're like, there's a lot of people in Germany. We don't want to lose that audience. Yeah. It's I hear people say that about certain countries in the world now and all that kind of stuff. Like, like it goes through all of it. And like, it's really eerie because then you get to see like the directors went up in proper World War II planes and like film battles and stuff. And like, it's in full color as well. Like, so it's a really gripping, haunting watch. And I've watched it twice now. It's that good. I never watch things twice.
Okay, I'll have to give it a watch. All right.
Yeah. Do yeah. And the really cool thing that Netflix does is if you've enjoyed it, it's got all of the films they made, all the propaganda.
No way.
In a playlist.
That's so cool.
Together, so you can watch it without the people commenting on it and stuff. So yeah, that's my random Netflix recommendation. And I'm not sure. Are you kind of a World War II history buff, or you're more classical? Are you?
When I was 8, my dad gave me books on Stalingrad.
Oh, well, There you go. Oh, well, then there's a lot to like in this, especially because Capra, the Wonderful Life director, he does a series called Why We Fight. And so one of his documentaries is on Russia. One of them is on Japan. One of them's on this. One of them's on that. So you really just get this. It's across the 3-hour documentary, the 3 episodes. You really do get this sense of the way people were thinking as the war goes on.
Yeah,
which is someone who suffered through way too many Doctor Who episodes set in the Blitz. Nothing to the people who survived it, but we have a very Star Warsy view of what World War II was. That wasn't the reality for the people who lived through it. Do you know what I mean?
We do. Yeah, well, it goes back to the point I was making about the medieval period. We think it's all Renaissance fairs and having a good old time, and it's like, no, you're living in a ditch and you're probably going to get the plague.
Yes.
That's what reality was like, but yeah, I will check it out. So what's it called again?
5 came back. I'll put it in the promotional things for our social medias this week, but
good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you type in any of the directors I've mentioned, like Steven Spielberg or anything like that, it's going to come up. It's a Netflix original and they propped it up really well.
So I do have a recommendation as well based on it. By the time this goes out, you guys have kind of missed it. So Humble Bundle is a website where they do bundles for charity and stuff like that as well, but they also do super really good sales. And there was a bundle up for the Ukraine, and it was actually it was a really, really good bundle, to be fair. It's ridiculously good stuff, 120 items, across the board. But one really struck out to me, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, cool. So do you know what an ARG is?
I'm afraid I don't know.
So augmented reality games. So it's like when you play a game, so when you play a video game, you're in the world as such, right?
Right.
Augmented reality, virtual reality, you're in a virtual world. Augmented reality is it can be one of two things when you put on the glasses and it interacts with the real world as well. But an ARG is where it blurs the lines between reality and not, right? So there's loads of different games that kind of do this, but this specific one is quite interesting to me for reasons that will become apparent in a second. It's called the USB stick found in the grass. So what happens is you download this game on Steam and it downloads a folder on your computer, on your actual computer. And there's loads of different things that you're going to have to go through, right? Now, folks, if you ever find a USB stick in the wild, do not plug it in. Do not pick it up, throw it away. Never, ever, ever put a USB stick that you find anywhere other than one you've bought yourself near your computer. Do not do it. Do not do it.
Is this something that actually happens?
Oh yeah, it's a very, very common way of hacking someone's computer is dropping a USB stick with a malice payload in it, and you can hack someone's computer very easily.
Okay.
It's called a bad USB attack. It's very, very common, extremely common. Do not do it. No one ever do that. However, this game is quite interesting. So what it does is the conceit is that you're a detective or something, and you find a USB stick, you plug it in, and it actually shows you like a proper thing that you would use to like safely look at a USB stick that you would find that like police use and stuff like that, right? But basically, you can see here is you're an investigator and you're trying to find out what's on this USB stick and find the mystery, right? But what's crazy about it is you're actually using real tools. So there will be a tool where, you know, you need to Google something, and instead of finding, fake Google, it will be like use Google, you know, use, like the image software, GIMP or Photoshop. You'll actually use those programs. So you'll use your actual computer to find this game mystery, and it starts blurring these lines between what's fake and what's not. You know, it's crazy. And like there'll be certain real world things in it. It's kind of like a normal Lost Phone or Horror Story or something like that. But more like real. It's crazy. Like it's a really, really cool idea. Like it's not, and the reviews of it have been you'll hate it or you'll love it. There's no in between. It's like if this is your thing, this is your thing. If this is not your thing, you're gonna hate it. So I would say, look, it came up on the bundle. I wasn't aware of it before. I think it's like a really, really neat idea. So yeah, again, look, the bundle's gone, unfortunately, by the time people are listening to this. But Humble Bundle itself in general, like it's pretty good. And you know, I found lots of really cool games from it. And same with like coding and all that kind of stuff. Like it has really cool bundles every week, and everything's for charity. Usually like they pick really good charities and stuff like that. But it would be remiss to not bring this up because it's just such a weird game. There's another weird game coming out later on this week, actually. So when this does come out, it'll be out. It's called Ghostwire Tokyo. Have you heard about this?
No, it's completely news to me.
So I haven't picked this up. I do have it pre-ordered, and it's again, apparently they described it as the best thing to do except for going to Japan, right? To go into Tokyo. So from what I can gather, it's made by the guys who made The Evil Within, the game from a couple of years ago. And you're in Japan, and there's been this like event that gives you superpowers. So you're wandering around Tokyo, fighting Slender Man, petting dogs, and trying to save everybody. And apparently it's really good. Now it's published by Bethesda because they kind of publish everything. And it's apparently it's just a really, really weird supernatural take on Tokyo. And I'm really intrigued by it. One, because I love Japan, and two, because I'm like, oh, this game is great. Like it's a proper neon cyberpunk kind of thing. But
well, that's what goes back to when we had Saoirse on a few weeks ago.
Exactly, yeah.
The kind of virtual Tokyo going through the games and all that kind of stuff.
But I mean, like apparently this is like the best one to get. So I'm gonna pick it up eventually. I do have it kind of I do have it pre-ordered, so I will get around to it eventually. But I'm playing the new WWE game for a review for the channel, Near to No Media on YouTube. So, you know, keep it locked because we will kind of get there eventually, you know. But I mean, I'm really excited about it. I rarely get excited for video games now, like big budget video games. That most games I play now are like weird indie things or simulators like House Flipper and stuff like that. Actually, found a really weird game the other day. How much time have you got left?
A fair bit now. I would say 17 minutes by my count.
Okay. So, Keane, if I was to say, have you ever worked in a fast food restaurant?
Unfortunately not.
Okay. Either have I. But I have worked in like coffee shops and stuff like that. So fast food for me is a little bit of a new frontier that I never actually experienced. So I've got really into simulator games, you know, House Flipper, Tech Support Simulator. Obviously, we interviewed the developer of Tech Support Simulator, really good game. 911 Operator, Cop Simulator.
Oh, I've played that one, yeah.
Yeah, there's just, you watch Call Me Kevin enough, and basically any game he plays, I'm like, I'll play Internet Cafe Simulator 2, which is bizarre. And then I came across this one. It's Happy's Humble Burger Barn. And that's actually free at the moment on Steam, but there's like a more version of it, another version of it. on PlayStation 5. I'm gonna get the name here so I have it. Yeah, so Happy Humble's Burger Farm on Steam, and it's also on the PS5. And it is a bizarre game. So
Can I just
basically,
stop you there? Are any of these really games? Do you know what I mean?
well, I mean, define a game.
A game like, stakes, win, lose,
So here's the thing,
story,
right? So
that kind of thing.
okay, so yes and no. So
Okay.
Internet Cafe Simulator, no. Metro Simulator, no. You drive a metro, right? Bus Simulator, you drive a bus. House Flipper has a story. Don't know what that story is. There's an awful lot of blood in these houses for some reason, so there's something going on. Happy Humble Burger Farm, you play. You drop into a weird burger place where you're making burgers, but it's just weird. It's everything's off. It kind of feels like Five Nights at Freddy's. There's a big vibe off it, and you have to make the burger, and if you don't make it, this cow comes and kills you.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I feel like we left reality there a bit quicker than I was expecting.
And basically, like, you're trying to unravel what's going on, and you find out that you're in a simulation and your brain is being eaten. And
By a cow?
A demon cow.
Okay.
And it's just so bizarre because, I mean, like, it takes the conceit of a simulator game. So one of those, like, it takes the conceit of Internet Cafe Simulator 2, which is a ridiculous game, but adds the story to it, makes it super weird. It's bizarre, has the craziest ending you'll ever see. And I'm in love with it. And the internet too is all over it, man. It's I'd say if you haven't played it, it is kind of, there's the free version on Steam, and then there's the full version, which is on the PS5, and it's also, you can get it on Steam as well. It's like €14. It is a wild experience. Now, it's hard. It is kind of hard to kind of get used to it, but it's so bizarre. And my advice would be to go in cold. Don't look up anything about it. Just buy it, play it. It's so weird.
I want to look up at least one image. Would you mind giving me the name of it again, please?
Yeah. So Happy's Humble Burger Farm.
Happy's Humble Burger Farm. Okay.
Yeah. And it is on Steam. The free version is on Steam. Like the OG, and then the proper full game is like 60.
I can see what you mean. Like, immediately there's like a Five Nights at Freddy's like kind of cute thing being turned evil vibe off it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's more kind of to it. The Five Nights at Freddy's, like with Five Nights at Freddy's, you're kind of stuck in that one room. Like, you're able to explore, and you basically, it starts. You walk to the restaurant, you walk around, you live in the world, you kind of explore. It's just so weird. And it kind of has a Soma twist to it as well. I don't know if people have played Soma, but it kind of feels like the twist in Soma. And I would say it's just a weird discovery. It's been out since December. And for me personally, I'm enjoying the PlayStation 5 for these weird games. Like, I know people are saying the PlayStation 5 has no games. I'm like, oh, it does. They're just really weird. And I'm like, it's basically like you buy a box that can play weird indie games, and this is one that I'm like, man, look, it has 97%, and it's like 9 out of 10 everywhere. It's such a bizarre experience that I cannot recommend enough. Also, Prey, if you like Prey, like the new one, which has a similar twist to it as well. It feels very like that, because like I randomly fell on it while going through my simulator games. I'm like, oh, I'll get all these, and I'm just like, oh, what's this? This one is actually a game with a story. So yeah, I would say, pick that one up and give it a go, because, man, it is so weird. It is so fun.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that, because, like, I mean, it's the lines are blurred between what's made on the internet and like what's mass media production. Like Cuphead is something that could have only been made on the internet, and now it's like a mass media property. Like,
Well, I mean, I think people have been primed with Five Nights at Freddy's, to kind of accept these weird, like, it's like Pony Island. I don't know if you ever played Pony Island. Pony Island is actually
no, I haven't. I'm afraid
that is a fun game. Basically, it's a pony game made by the devil.
Right.
Yeah, and you have to hack your computer to play it. It's super good. But it's that we've been primed by these games for so long that it takes a while to kind of be like, okay. And I think, like, Five Nights at Freddy's was its own thing. Pony Island was its own thing. The fact that we're in a world now where simulator games are what a lot of people play. Like as I said, there's a simulator for everything, right? And this one, it just feels, it's like that. What's it? The uncanny valley where you're like, okay, I've played games like this before, but this is just off.
Yeah.
And the more and more you it scratches that itch where you're like, what's going on? This is so weird. It's so bizarre. And then it just goes for it. And I think it's wonderful.
Do you think, like, not to completely change so, but do you think AAA games have ever copped to the fact that, like, games like this Pony Island thing are what people are really looking for on the internet? Like, or to go back further, like, your Undertales, like your Cupheads to a certain degree. Like, I haven't come across big, apart from maybe now and again, like kind of the Inky and the Blots kind of thing. Even that might be an online release. Like, I feel like kind of major game companies are very out of step.
It's not that
people are actually looking for,
It's not that they're out of step. It's got to do with cost.
Okay.
So if you remember the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox,
yes,
that was the last real. Like, I love the Xbox 360, I really do. But I mean, you start seeing kind of the shift to what it would become. But the Xbox and the PlayStation 2, games were cheap to make, right? Game development, you could bang out a shovelware title in 5 minutes and it'd be, there you go, And that's why you get the Little Britons and the Deal or No Deal and the Are You Smarter Than a 10-Year-Old? All those kind of shovelware games, they were everywhere. And now you wouldn't really see them that much because they're so much more expensive to make. Like, they still exist, obviously, but you wouldn't see them in the store. And it's got to do, companies won't take the risk anymore. They also won't really do the shovelware thing. Like, Nintendo are the only ones where you can buy shovelware, really, or other than on Steam. But I mean, it's so much more expensive to make a game now, where a AAA game costs millions of dollars. So they're like, right, we're going to make Call of Duty, we're going to make Assassin's Creed, we're going to make Far Cry, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but why does it cost much more? I mean, surely
graphics. No, I can tell you exactly why.
Yeah,
graphics. They've put so much effort, and I don't really like playing modern games again because I just don't. I find them very tedious, with some exceptions, because it's all about graphics. For example, you play a game now, it's going to be, we have the great ray tracing graphics. Cool. What's the story? Like, we have graphics. It's like, okay, but what's the story? It's the same. Like, my mom actually said to me, she's like, geez, that game looks just like the other game. I'm like, it pretty much is.
Yeah.
Or anyone I play games in front of, they're like, that's very much like, that's all it is. It's like Assassin's Creed has been the same Assassin's Creed with the exception of Black Flag, right? Black Flag is one of the only games that is completely different in the Assassin's Creed series because it's a pirate game. That they just made a pirate game. But I mean, like, you play Far Cry, it's been the same. Blood Dragon was DLC, and that's when the series should have stopped. And that's why it's to make a AAA game now cost so much money, requires teams of people, requires lots of QA testing, requires all this kind of stuff, purely because they need to hit this graphical standard and then build out online play. The focus isn't the story, because they think that most people don't want story developed games, and I'm like, we do. But I mean, like, your target audience is a 14-year-old kid in his room with his mates. That is the target audience of AAA gaming. So that's what they deliver.
See, because there's more kind of money to be generated.
Exactly.
And kind of
Exactly.
like.
But then again, if you look at it, Fortnite was a indie game. So was Minecraft. And it's always kind of become like, that's where innovation is always going to come from. And the next innovation, I don't know what it's going to be in gaming, but I mean, like, for me right now on the PS5, on Steam, it's always indie games, because they're not going to do these small games, or if they do, it's going to be this unique experience. And I think, like, you can't build for that now. Basically, it's like movies. If you're selling a game to an executive, you're like, hey, it's kind of like this. You can't really say that about what the game I just talked about.
Yeah.
It's like, it's its own thing, and you have to kind of play it. And you used to be able to get that on the PS2. I mean, like, you'd buy it on the PS2 and be like, oh, this is a really weird game, let's play it, But it would have been so much less to produce that. A team of like 5 people could produce that and, get it out, and because the graphics wouldn't have had to be perfect, etc., etc. But I mean, that's why engines are expensive. Game development is very difficult and very expensive. So it's just like, they're just calculating the risks. They're like, hey, it's like Marvel. We love Marvel on this show, but I mean, It's a lot easier to get what's your man's name? Moon Knight? Yeah.
Oh,
like,
Oscar Isaac, like.
No, I mean like just the character. It's a lot easier to go, hey, we're gonna make Moon Knight than a thoughtful series on the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right. Okay.
Or,
or original property. Like
yeah, I mean, like it's just what's going to sell.
Yeah.
The new Marvel thing or an original IP.
And you're right, because I suppose going back to what you're saying about graphics, if you like have invested that much money in making a game look as polished as possible and kind of appeal to as many people as possible, you're almost not going to tell an interesting story out of fear it might alienate someone who just doesn't like that particular story. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
you can tell an interesting story, but that's secondary because, dude, most games that are developed now aren't for single players. They're for online. There are some exceptions, but when there are exceptions, they're actually exceptions. And right. I mean, that's why I've kind of fallen away from most modern video games, because I'm like, I kind of hate this. I don't like playing video games with people. I'm very antisocial when I play video games. I just want to play a story. As I said, I go off and play New Vegas now for hours. But if I turn on Assassin's Creed, I'm like, okay, great. I'm running up that hill again. I mean, like Assassin's Creed.
That's a good looking horizon, all right.
I was in Greece there. I was in Athens a couple of weeks ago, and it was great. And I mean, if you want to go around ancient Athens, play Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The game sucks. I mean, there's no gameplay. You're like, cool, all right. I've played this game for about 10 years now. I mean, like, look, when I get a computer or when I fix computers for people, Deus Ex, the first one, Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, and Vampire Bloodlines: The Masquerade goes on people's computer. Because they are amazing games that I play all the time.
Be honest, do you leave USB sticks in fields to accidentally install like Vampire the Masquerade onto people's computers so they can discover it?
I mean, I haven't, but I have ideas now.
If you find a USB somewhere in, like, I don't know, the Blanchardstown area, I mean, it could be a virus or it could be a game Dara really likes. It's 50-50. We're not going to take responsibility for it.
Genuinely, folks, don't pick up random USB sticks. It's not worth it. But what I would say is Vampire the Masquerade, like those kind of games stick around for a reason. Like you play Vampire the Masquerade, you're never playing the same game again. And like that was built on a broken engine by a studio that went out of business, and it was the last dying breath of an amazing studio, and it's been fixed by fans because it's that amazing. Deus Ex 1 is one of the best games ever made, and the same with Star Wars: Knights of the Republic. The last grasp from a company that were like, "Oh, we want to fix this game," and fans have fixed it. Like those experiences are out there, and studios just aren't listening because they're like, well, we're gonna make all this money, and it's like, all right, cool. But I mean, that's why I'm saying for these experiences, there are places to go. Humble Bundle has them. The PlayStation Store, you're gonna go through them, and that's where I'm playing now. Like I got a PS5, and it's like as Kev said, Hades is one of the best games you can play, and that's an indie game. Like there's no massive games on the PlayStation 5 that I will turn on and play, really, because they're not the experiences I want from it, But then again, there's some 14-year-old who really enjoys playing Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever, and that is awesome for them. It's just we're getting old. That's what it is. We're getting old, and maybe
this show is like. Maybe we were relevant on show like 49 or something like that, but at 140, we're in proper old man yells at cloud territory now.
Hey, we started the show yelling at a cloud. Now we're just kind of being contemplative.
No, we're not. Oh, even our cloud isn't here. Our cloud has gone.
Only hot air on this show. Only hot air.
I remember the first episode I was on, we were speculating on like the Final Fantasy VII remake, and now that's come and gone. It's so funny how it's like in the gaming industry. I know there's only a minute left, but like you're kind of designed to forget it very quickly. You know what I mean? It's the biggest thing in the world till it comes out and it's kind of gone in 2 weeks, You
see, it is that kind of consumer, like, look, consumerism is what it is, but I mean, it is that kind of thing where you're like, consume product, get excited for next product. And that's what I'm saying. Like games 20 years ago, they weren't built that way. you know, media from 20 years ago is still going to stick harder because you're like, it's still good. And yeah, okay, maybe we grew up with it, but I challenge anybody to install Vampire the Masquerade. Go pick it up. It's like €8. Install it and play it, and then come back and be like, that wasn't a good time, because just don't get it from Steam, because Steam, they haven't patched it. You have to install the patch yourself. GOG actually deliver it with the patch, so it runs properly. So I would say, look, you know, play that game. It's one of the best experiences you'll ever have.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's quite a heartwarming recommendation to go out on. So with our 45 seconds left, are there any recommendations or plugs you would like to make for our audience at home?
So Nerd to Know Media is where you can reach us, nerdtoknowmedia at gmail.com as well, if you want to, you know, comment on anything you've heard. You can find me on Twitter at DarraWV, DARRAGHWV, and nerdtoknowmedia.com, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. That's where we are, and we appreciate the support.
Lovely. I would say the same, just like as we mentioned at the top of the show, we're big fans of Geek Ireland. Go give them a look. I am currently reviewing Picard with varying feelings every single week, but to find out my feelings, you can go check them out there. They're all up there. I'm incredibly gutted we didn't get to discuss the J.J. Abrams news, which we'll have to save for next week, unfortunately, but we'll save that for the big episode 141 spectacular milestone that we've been hyping up for the last few weeks.
Supermax Extra Plus.
Of course, 141. I'm sure everyone can find something significant. You can add all the numbers up to 6 and it's the devil or something. I don't know. So on that rather cryptic note, we will sign off for this week. And this has been Cian and Dara. We have been the Nerd to Know Basis show, and we will see you this time next week. Have a wonderful week. Bye.
Bye.
Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
All right, so you're listening to the podcast. You're like, hey, I'm not in Ireland. How do I get in touch? Well, TuneIn has you covered. That's how you can check us out live when we're on the radio. You go to TuneIn and download the app, or you can check out the live streams on nerdtoknowmedia.com or Phoenix 92.5 FM. If you want to get in contact with us, it's very easy. Nerd to Know Media everywhere. Nerd to Know Media on Twitter, Nerd to Know Media Instagram, Nerd to Know Media on Twitch, Nerd to Know Media at gmail.com if you want to reach out via email. Hope to hear from you soon.
Hey, Dara, what are you doing over there in Ireland? Like with the freaking leprechauns and everything. That's not cool. You should be over here with the cosplayers. At least then you could, like, I don't know, pretend like you got, I don't know, some kind of thing going on. Yeah, with you give me a Brooklyn raise. Yeah, with you. Dara. Yeah, Dara. Why ain't you over here with Joey? Anyway, we missed you, dude. So, it's Bill Karibo saying,
I love it. All I do is just believe in the...
Check out the Wrestling Rewind here on Phoenix 92.5 FM every Tuesday at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And of course, over on nerdtoknowmedia.com, the only wrestling podcast by wrestling fans who don't hate wrestling. We'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.